It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. Alan, how are we feeling in the road to recovery here for yourself?
I went to the doctor today and got some medicine, so hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
I feel like, maybe I'm an optimist when it comes to pretty much anything besides my sports teams. I feel like your voice sounds a little bit better. It sounds a little bit stronger. It's got a little bit more oomph in it today.
Yeah, the afternoon is better than the morning. The morning is bad.
Yeah. Yep. I would agree. I mean, I don't know if our illnesses here were crossed at all, if it was similar or what. I never lost my voice, but can definitely share the sentiment that, like, when I first woke up, my goodness, it felt like I was just like chewing on shards of glass all night with how sore my throat would be when I first woke up.
Yeah, it's about accurate.
So, all right, we got some questions we want to get into. There's only one piece of like news information that I want to get into, so we'll cover that first and then jump into some questions. This was reported yesterday, actually, while we were recording, so we didn't get to it yesterday. But Jeff Hathorn putting out there Steelers' potential interest in Nick Chubb, obviously. One of the better backs, has been one of the better backs in the league for the Cleveland Browns. Also suffered some massive major injuries. One of those taking place right at Acrisure Stadium against the Steelers in week 2 of the 2023 season. What do we make of this? Do you think that this is legit? Have you heard anything of this? And man, this seems to me like such a weird timing fit, like at this point in Nick Chubb's career, for them to be interested in him. I don't know. Where are you at with this?
I think I'm out on Nick Chubb as a difference maker. I mean, 3.3 yards per carry this year is not good. I mean, certainly was a great player and probably deserves some grace coming back from that injury. I just don't know. Like, I don't know that I see the fit. Like, does he want to be running back 3? Like, I don't. He needs to go somewhere where they have someone who's established that he can, sort of sit behind, I guess. I don't really know what he wants. I guess that's, I mean,
I think he would be a good fit if David Montgomery wasn't in Detroit with Jahmyr Gibbs, or if Tyler Algier wasn't in Atlanta with Bijan, like that type of back too.
But I think the fact that Warren is a restricted free agent with no guarantee of being long-term here either, and it's such a good running back class, I don't know why the Steelers wouldn't want to draft that guy this year. And sure, I don't think they're going to go through free agency just ignoring running back. I expect them to sign another running back. But why Nick Chubb? I don't know. It feels like such a strange fit.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Last year, just beyond the 3.3 yards per carry, just watching him felt like the juice was gone. Like, I think he was sapped of a lot of his athleticism with those injuries he suffered. I think that he still got some thump to his game, but it's like completely different player than what he was. Like that home run hit ability, that's gone, or it looks like it's gone. Maybe another year removed from that injury, some of that would come back, but I would not bet for that to happen. I would bet against that happening.
And it just feels like there are always a half a dozen of those guys just hanging around. Like, if you look at the free agent running back market, there are a number of players that I think I would much rather take a chance on. Javonte Williams, or one of the guys from San Francisco. I think they have 2 guys that are free agents. Eli Mitchell, and Khalil Herbert, or I don't know. I just think there's a lot of guys out there that I'm just like, man, I think that's a reasonable shot in the. I don't know. I don't really see it. Ty Johnson's a free agent. I'd be fine with that. I don't know.
Ty Johnson. I feel like Josh Allen's going to be he's going to treat him like Joe Burrow's been talking about T. Higgins needing to stay. Josh Allen loves Ty Johnson so much as his third down running back, just the way that he talked about him. I have a hard time thinking he's going to leave Buffalo, but hey, he's really nice third down back for sure. All right, so that'll be interesting to see how but you said it within there.
We'll sign somebody.
Well, that's what I was going to come back to. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Well, because that's not necessarily the way that I've been thinking? Like, are you of the mindset? Do you think Cordero Patterson's going to be on the roster? Or no, is that why you think they're going to sign him back, or what are you at? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, I don't think Cordero Patterson will be on the roster. I can't imagine them bringing back as a kick returner. And while I thought it was fine as a running back 3, I don't think his salary is really in line with a running back 3. So I think they'll release him. Now, maybe they would be able to like release him and bring him back at a different amount. I don't know. That's generally not the way that works. I don't think I have a problem with Cordero Patterson as a third running back in the offense, but he cannot be the kick returner. And I think most salary was tied up in kick returning. So yeah, I would go a different direction. Now I haven't heard it just that's what I would do.
I agree. That's definitely what I would do. It's just because I haven't heard that either, obviously, and I haven't really opened my mind to that being something that can happen this offseason, but I'm certainly for it. So if that's the case, yeah, I would expect that they're going to sign one before we get to the draft. Another position where I think we need to look at free agency before we get to the draft, and Chirp152 agrees here, says, I think they should spend some cash on a good corner like a Murphy or a Ward, since to me, there's not a big money wide receiver available that makes sense. What's your thought on that, Alan?
Heck yeah. I think they're going to. In fact, I spent most of my day writing an article about the available options in free agency at cornerback that I teased on Morning Rush this morning, but then did not finish before afternoon drive. So maybe it's not going to come out today. Maybe it's going to come out tomorrow. But yeah, I got like 20 options on there, and they're not all great, but there's lots of good ones. Honestly, like there's so many good ones that I feel very confident in them finding an upgrade on Dante Jackson at corner this offseason.
I was going to ask you because we talked about the receivers in the free agent class, and it's like, there's some like good players in there, but they're aging or coming off injuries. Like they're all like 28 years or older, a lot of them on the other side of 30. And I feel like when you look at the corners up towards the top, whether it is like a Charvarius Ward, DJ Reed, Byron Murphy's not that quite that old yet, but like a lot of guys towards the top of that group are also kind of within that range too. Do you look at it differently than the wide receiver position? Maybe because they're not necessarily coming off injuries, even though they are like in that 28 to 30 range. You got to be weary of giving a guy like that a long-term contract, or what do you think?
I think corners generally age pretty well, especially guys that aren't just pure speed. There are a bunch of younger guys in this group too. Asante Samuel's younger. There are a couple like Paulson Adebo's coming off an injury, but like most of them are not. So yeah, I mean, I think there's it's a really good group, man. Travarius Ward would be, like, dude, I'm so in this article, I'm sort of making the case, and then like, why wouldn't it work? And like, it took me a really long time to come up with something as to why Travarius Ward wouldn't work. Like, it'd be pretty much ideal. I got nothing. Really was my answer there. Like, DJ Reed's a little bit smaller. Maybe you think he's too small. Carlton Davis is out there. He's real. Like, there's just Rasul Douglas.
He's coming off an injury too, but like it's a broken jaw.
Like it was a jaw. He's gonna be fine. Like, Rasul Douglas, Jordan Lewis. Now there are older guys like that are definitely 1-year options, like Jonathan Jones or Stephon Gilmore. But like even those guys are still pretty good players if you just want them. If you want to do 1 year and kick the can down the road, I think that's fine too. I think they'll not have to do that. I think they will find someone they can sign to a 3 or 4 year deal to be their significant term starting cornerback in free agency this year.
Yeah, Asante Samuel Jr. is the name. I mean, I mentioned this, I think, going back to last week, is the name that kept getting thrown my way. I'll be interested
in the story, but it'd be beautiful.
The other name that was thrown my way, and Nate Hobbs, who was with the Raiders last year, obviously was with Gerald Alexander coming back to the organization. I think that would be kind of interesting. And I'm curious, it's like I still think they would need to go and get another boundary guy, like unless you are just really trusting Corey Trice with that job. But I think he's an upgrade from what they've had there. What are your thoughts on Nate Hobbs? I don't know if he was in that.
Hobbs is just a slot. I think he can play inside and outside. Samuel, I think is inside outside. Like he's more outside. Honestly, Hobbs is bigger. I think anybody like that is a bonus. They like the versatility. Jonathan Jones has played safety too, if they want to. Want that triple versatile guy. But I like Hobbs. Hughes from Atlanta is interesting. He was a former first-round pick. He kind of like fell off and then had one good year. So like this is a bit risky, but had a really good year. There's just so many options. I have a hard time. Mike Hilton, if you want a slot guy, is out there.
Yeah. Man, that would certainly be interesting to see him come back. You mentioned the versatility, those guys being able to play inside and outside, and people, Alan, to kind of steer the discussion back to the offensive side of the ball here, maybe enamored with the versatility that they are hoping to see. And I don't get it. Like, I don't want to single out one person here because we seem to get this comment on every single video that is posted on this channel this offseason is somebody mentioning the idea of Troy Fautanu playing guard as opposed to tackle when them drafting a tackle. Where did this come from? Why do you think that this is something that's being thrown out there? Where are we at with this?
So this came from the fact that Troy Fautanu is not very tall. He's 6'4", not exceptionally tall for an offensive lineman, but he has longer arms for his height. So usually when you're talking about linemen, the length is more important than the actual height. Height doesn't really matter. It's the length. And his arms are fine. It came from before he measured at the combine, some people thought he might have to be a guard if he did not have those long arms because he is a little bit short. If you look up the Scouts definition of a guard, not the Merriam-Webster, the Scouts definition of a guard is an offensive lineman that is not good enough to be a tackle. That's what it is. You are an offensive lineman you tried to play tackle, you failed at it, and now you're a guard. And the center is an offensive lineman that has failed at being tackle and is too small to play guard. That's what those guys are. If there is a 5% chance that Troy Fautanu will be an NFL tackle, then he needs to be a tackle. The idea of playing him guard is unbelievably stupid. Not only do I think he's a good tackle, I think he's the best offensive lineman they have, which is, by the way, their left tackle, and that is the definition of a left tackle, the best offensive lineman you have. So yeah, I don't know where this comes from. It's insane. It would be a really, really bad idea. If there is a tackle that the Steelers have that is in danger of becoming a guard, it's Broderick Jones, not Troy Fautanu.
Yeah,
Broderick Jones has been playing tackle and struggling. Troy Fautanu was great when we saw him. I don't get it.
Right. It's nice to keep in the back of your mind, like, hopefully, like, you feel good about what Troy Fautanu could be at guard. If for some reason, whatever reason, things do go south at tackle in a worst case scenario for him there. But I don't know why it's on people's minds to, like, pretty much start his career there. Like, again, played one game at tackle and got hurt. Why are we all of a sudden, like, and it's harder to find a good tackle, right? Like, so if you have one, why are you kicking him inside and trying to find another tackle and opening up that hole? I don't know.
It would have been a colossal waste of that draft pick if he turns out to be a guard. Like, that's bottom line. That's a failure. Him being a guard is a failure. Broderick Jones being a guard is a failure, and that's harsh. And like Mekhi Becton, look, you can still have a really nice career as a guard, but Mekhi Becton was a failed tackle that became a guard. That's the career path. If you end up there, it's not where you want to be.
I mean, and he was 9th overall. Becton, so like, yeah, that even looks worse. And obviously, I like Broderick, the trade up from 17 to 14 to do it, and then if he ended up being a guard, yeah, I mean, obviously, it wouldn't look great even if it was Fautanu. But a couple of these are related to the salary cap, so we'll save those and kind of put them together. But Bother here says, first off, he's very excited about you being back yesterday. Alan's back. Woo woo. Hey guys, so I need to get your guys.
Lots of love.
Go ahead.
I should leave more often.
Oh yeah.
Is what I took away from that.
This is how you know, like, this is how you get appreciated. People don't know what they're missing until they don't have it.
Yeah. Hey, you don't know what you look till it's gone.
Every once in a while, just take off a day, come back, and this is what you get in the comments. Anyways, so hey guys, need your help figuring out this false narrative that Fields was getting better, in all caps, that has played the entire Steelers fan base. After the 3-0 start, looked like Bears Fields in the Indy game. It was such a bad game for 3 quarters, fumbling ball, quarterback center exchange, cost us the game. The Cowboys game, the offense was leading. a non-existent whole game. He threw 68 Darnell for a touchdown. His bad game. Then the big misleading Vegas game where the Steelers put up a lot of points on the board, but argue that it was his worst game as a passer. Wasn't hitting anything over the middle of the field. Underthrew a wide open GP in the end zone. Almost got picked off. Clear INT staring down GP that was called back for roughing the passer. Don't see him getting better. My eyes would tell me he was actually getting worse as a passer as time went on. Am I the only one who sees it this way? Appreciate it, fellas.
Yeah, I think you got to separate two things. 2024 was by far the best season of Justin Fields' career. So if you are looking at the trajectory in season chunks, he got better in 2024. Absolutely. But I thought his worst two games as a starter this year were the last two, and it wasn't particularly close.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I would argue, and this is going back to his time. Like, I've followed Justin's career just because of Ohio State, even in Chicago. I thought his best game as a pro came in the Steelers home opener this year against the Chargers. I thought he was fantastic. And then he was really good in the
3-game stretch, Atlanta, Denver, LA, which turned out to be against three pretty good teams. I thought that was by far the best 3-game stretch of his entire career. Like, I would maybe even go as far as to say that he never had 2 games as good as any of those 3 in that group. That was the best we've ever seen Justin Fields.
And then, first half, not good versus the Colts. Obviously came on strong in the second half. I think you got to add the context in terms of, like, probably a little bit lax on the defensive side of the ball for the Colts. And
mixed bag against the Colts. Yeah. But then I thought Dallas and Vegas were the worst.
Yes.
Like, it was clear that by the time that Russ came back, that there was going to be no doubt that he was going to be the starter, because Fields was struggling. He wasn't playing well. And that Fields, I hate the people that are like, oh, they promised Russ the starting job. It's just crap. If Fields had gone out there and played, if he had gone the other way, he put those first 3 games down and then he got better from there, there's no chance Russell Wilson would have seen the field. But he didn't. He was struggling. And it was clear that Mike was going to make that choice. And I think it was obviously the right one at the time. So, no, I don't think he was getting better as the year went on.
No, but as we've talked about before on here, and sure, he maybe had some luck in terms of getting away with not losing some of the fumbles, but, like, wasn't turning the football over. And that's something that was plaguing him during his time in Chicago. So that was the one area where I really thought that there was a significant leap this year for him. And, how much of that was the handling of him, handling him with kid gloves. We talked about them kind of going about it with a backup quarterback game plan and stuff like that. If he comes back this year as the starter, that's not going to be able to be the case. You kind of got to let him, I don't want to say cook, I'm not trying to take away the Russ thing here and give it to Justin, but if he's your guy and you're going with him as the guy, I would like to think that that's going to change. But TBD, obviously, if he even comes back and how they would handle him if so. But that's the one thing I think that we do have to give Justin credit for, is the fact that he wasn't turning the football over this year.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was the big knock on him. And he made huge strides. I did not think that Justin would be as good as he was in 2024. I did not think that he could play starting quarterback for 6 games for the Pittsburgh Steelers and not turn the ball over the way that he had before in his career. I thought it was significant. It's the reason that teams are now openly talking about Justin Fields as a starting quarterback going into the 2025 season. Steelers may have real competition to sign him because of the turnovers. That is the one major and really only thing.
I hate to throw this hypothetical out there because we don't know how it would have, what the trajectory would have been if time would have went on and he continued to play. But do you think it almost might be in his favor, the fact that he didn't play much after those 6 games? Like, it creates that little bit of unknown. Like, people really only saw that, that period, and they're going based off that evaluating him off those games. Who knows? Like, if things would have gone south, maybe he's looked at in a different light. So I think that's interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, I think you get the ick on you. Like, look, I mean, how different does the end of, like, look at Russ, look at Sam Darnold, like their trajectories as free agents completely changed post December 15th. And Justin doesn't have any of that. It absolutely works in his advantage that it's even that little downturn of his, it didn't happen. It wasn't the last thing we remember seeing. It was weeks ago, and now people have kind of forgotten about it.
Yeah. We'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays. I'm just so intrigued by what the quarterback position, how that's going to play out this offseason. And Sean's intrigued by things going south. Sean Doyle 412 here says, hearing the news of the salary cap going up, free agency starting, draft being around the corner, etc., naturally brings out a lot of positivity and excitement for potential moves the team can make this offseason. Obviously, and Sean must not be too dialed in on Steelers Twitter if he thinks there's any positivity going around right now. Anyways, however, I'm looking to balance out that optimism with a little bit of negativity. Now, this is where he is probably dialed in to what's going on Steelers Twitter right now. What are some things the Steelers can do over the next few months that could absolutely derail the season before it even begins, or goes as far as negative impact on the season? Possibly pass on a premium corner in free agency only to re-sign Dante Jackson and Cam Sutton, bring back Russ on a 3-year, $90 million contract, massively reach on a quarterback in round one, such as a Jackson Dart. Big fan of all the content you guys put out. Keep up the good work. Appreciate the question, Sean. Alan, how could things go south before we even get to the season in your mind?
This is a good question because I think in free agency, more teams hurt themselves than help themselves. And I think that is, like, if you think about the way that a fan base feels about its team over the course of the offseason, no one leaves free agency thinking, well, they just ruined us. We're screwed. We're done. We're hopeless. But when you look at it, actually more teams will be hurt by the free agency process than helped by it. More teams will make mistakes that hurt them in terms of giving out contracts that players don't deserve, putting players in roles that they can't handle, than they will be helped by a free agent addition that they make that goes on. I mean, the Saquon to Philly, that's the rare outcome. Like, most of the time, teams are making mistakes in free agency. And so I think for that reason, it's a pretty prescient question.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that I think, just like I love free agency, and don't get me wrong, there are obviously hits that come out of free agency, but like in general, like you're saying, it's just like a window for you to overpay other teams' players that they didn't want anymore. I don't know. Like I said, I love free agency. I'm not saying that that's always the case. Teams, if they're good evaluators and know how to build a roster and stuff like that, they're going to approach free agency the right way. But it typically isn't those teams that make, like, the teams that make the biggest splashes in free agency. How often are those the teams at the end of the season that were like, yep, that was a really good contract that they handed out? Rarely does it happen. Instead, it's like the Philadelphia Eagles finding Zach Bond on a 1-year contract and getting the play that they did out of him. Things like that.
Yeah, I mean, look at the most expensive contracts in free agency last year. Kirk Cousins, there was $180 million lit on fire. Christian Wilkins didn't help the Raiders do anything. Like, what? Like, why? What is that helping them do right now? Why? Hunter, yeah, okay, like that was a good one. Calvin Ridley, did Calvin Ridley help the Titans do anything?
That's actually, I'm glad that happened though, because that's the example I keep bringing up for people that are saying that no wide receiver will sign with the Steelers because of their, who where they're at right now offensively. Like, the top free agent wide receiver from last year signed up to play with Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
all this, I mean, you got to get pretty far down the list before you find, like, oh, that's a great deal. Like, I mean, it's just a lot of bad stuff happens. It does not help anyone.
So, in terms of this for the Steelers, one of the examples that he threw out there would be the one, if he didn't, that I threw out there. I think, giving Russ a 3-year, $90 million contract, something that we had talked about, even if you said like this 2.5 months ago, like, I would have thought that this is a possibility, within the realm of possibility. Absolutely not. Cannot happen. Threw Cam Sutton in there. Can't bring him back. Jackson Dart is a first-round pick. My God, please don't. The one that, like, I don't want to have happen, but I don't think would, like, derail that he threw out here was Dante Jackson coming back. I don't know what the contract would look like, obviously.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider that like derailing. They can do better than that, but that's not like a mistake. I think a mistake is a big contract for a quarterback. And I think a mistake is reaching at wide receiver. Like that, to me, that's a mistake, because It's one thing if they just go small with it, right? If they just get Stephon Diggs on a 1-year deal, right? Okay, so if he's not very good, it doesn't matter. Right. Like it's okay, whatever. Just try again next year. But if they sign Chris Godwin to $100 million contract and his ankle's never the same, and then it's like over. If they sign like Darius Slayton to a big deal and he never gets in, like getting him out of New York does not improve the results any. Like, I think reaching for a wide receiver because of how deep the need is and how badly they botched things last year is a real concern, and how thin the free agent class is. I think there's a concern for or trading for someone and then giving the Jerry Jeudy contract to Christian Kirk. Right. Okay. Trading for Christian Kirk, fine. I got no problem with that. Signing him and then giving him that big deal.
What about even like Debo within that same bucket? I would think that's something that I've thought about too. I don't want to get into a bidding war for that player. I think he could be useful here. I like the fit schematically, but
I think it's all just about I think it's a bad group of wide receivers that are available to them. I think they're unlikely to find a wide receiver 1. I think they're only marginally likely to find a real bona fide XZ wide receiver 2. There are some kind of hybrid types like Debo that will be available to them. Kirk he's probably a bona fide number 2. But another guy coming off an injury. It just seems like every player, although his is broken collarbone, shouldn't be any long-term issues from that. But it just seems like almost every guy they could get has a big caveat. And it's one thing if you mine the market thoughtfully. It's another thing if you go all in 2 feet down on one of these guys with big question marks, and then it doesn't turn out because then you're really sinking yourself at the position for multiple years.
I'll another one that I'll throw in here, just because we talked at the beginning about Nick Chubb, to me would be committing, pretty significant dollars to a running back in free agency, just because of the draft class that we're looking at that position.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they want to spend a little on a 1-year deal there, because you don't want to trust a running back, like a rookie, I'm kind of okay with that. But I agree. Najee's 5th-year option, whatever that was, 1 year, $7 million, something like that. Spending that would have been fine. If you can get a player even 80% of Najee Harris for that, great. Do something like that to kind of give yourself, your rookie, some, take a little pressure off the draft process and the rookie himself. I'm fine with that. But yeah, don't commit long-term money to a running back in this environment. I'm not worried about that. You don't turn down the option on Harris and then go do that. I'm a little worried about wide receiver.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's likely. It's just if that were to happen, that's kind of where I would be at with that. But okay, Sean mentioned
there's a danger at quarterback too.
Draft or free.
You can bring in the wrong. I think a quarterback, you can bring in the wrong guy. I think that hurts you too. You bring in the wrong person at that position. That can really hurt you as well.
Okay. Well, I don't think you'd be bringing in the wrong person, but I also thought, just to kind of go along with the Jackson Dart thing, like Jalen Milroe. But I wouldn't have any personality questions about him.
You're not bringing in Jalen Milroe to start. So, to me, that's just Jalen Milroe is one of those ones where, me sitting here in this chair, I can actually make a wonderful argument to draft Jalen Milroe fairly high. It's the people who get fired if it doesn't work that are afraid of doing that. But sensibly taking even big bets on his upside makes sense.
Well, here's why, is because even if you're chasing that upside, to me, using that pick on him as opposed to a different position of need is more so what it's about for me.
Yeah. I mean, I would not hate Jalen Milroe in the 2nd round. I don't think that's a bad pick for the Steelers.
So I was more because he mentioned Dart at 21, so I was just replacing that name.
Any quarterback at 21 will be a bad pick for the Steelers unless somehow Cam Ward is available. Every other quarterback is a bad pick at 21. All of them.
I agree. Some people might push for Shador there, obviously, if he were to fall. but I'm in agreement with you. Last thing here, straight rocket fuel. If the salary cap is going up for all the teams, isn't the extra cap space imaginary?
This is a good question because it's a closed system. So it kind of is, and it also kind of isn't. So, like, yeah, every team gets the same amount of extra cap space, but every team that amount of cap space doesn't affect every team's situation similarly. So, like we kind of talked about yesterday, the Steelers are actually going to be in a position where they have so much cap space, like they don't need any more. So, like, it actually doesn't help them as much as it does some other teams that are more strapped for it, right? Like the teams, this is like if everybody gets $200 stimulus check, like we did during COVID, that helps me and you a heck of a lot more than it helps our Rooney. Like he's like, great, put it on the shelf. I'll deal with it later. Like I'm like, sweet, we're eating steak this week. Like, so the more cap space you have to work with, or you had to work with, the less extra space helps you compared to everybody else. But the other thing it does is it increases generally speaking, it's going to increase the price on free agents. And so if you're a team that needs a lot of free agents, it could be a detriment to you. But I think it will help the Steelers for this reason, is that the Steelers have a good roster. They don't need a lot of free agents. They just they just need a few. And so I think it helps them be able to be thoughtfully aggressive about the way they attack the market. I don't think that inflationary aspect of it, you start to feel that when you're signing 7 or 8 free agents. I don't see that in the Steelers' plans. I think they're going to sign 3 or 4 guys.
And I kind of started to think about, the rollover into 2026 as well. Like obviously we don't know what that's going to be yet, but like just in terms of that, because somebody asked a question in terms of how that would impact the amount that they could roll over to 26.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they should be wanting to roll over into 2026, but they might have to. Like I said, it will be an issue as to whether they can find a way to spend all this salary cap space.
Yeah,
for sure. The other part of this is you can front load some contracts. Like if you don't need usually when you re-sign a player, you make their first year very cap friendly, then you backload it. Same reason that nobody pays for their house with cash up front, like because the price at the end of your 30-year mortgage or at the end of this contract, that dollar will be worth less. So like you want to defer as much of it as you can because the cap is only going to go up. And so the idea that that's why most teams backload contracts and backload the salary cap hits on contracts, but you can front load some too if you have the space and it's available to you.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Alan Saunders once again gutting it out here as he needs to smoke the cough yet again, but appreciate the effort. This has been Alan. I can't even say flu week. It's not the flu that you have, I don't think, right?
No,
but we'll consider it. This is like Michael Jordan stuff that we're seeing from you this week.
I appreciate that.
Al, before we get out of here, you know the drill. Tell the people they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH on all the social media platforms. PGH Steelers Now is the site's account, SteelersNow.com. Go there and read the words. I will deliver that promised cornerback, whatever you want to call it, study guide by at least tomorrow morning at the latest.
Something else we're going to have to do, you mentioned this to me, and I really like the idea. So Sean gave us the idea of talking about what a worst-case scenario is. I think we got to do what the best-case scenario would be for the Steelers offseason and what that could look like. So that'll be coming here in the near future as well.
Could be tomorrow.
Hey, I mean, we have not been blessed with much news in the Steelers world lately. So, barring that happening, I'm assuming that we could probably certainly fit it in. And, if DB is going to be here on a Friday.
See, DB filled in earlier, so I don't know. Maybe he's going to take Friday off. See, we are also subscribe, hit that bell for notifications on the YouTube channel. We are at 15,000 and Jack Lambert. No, you're not going to get another number out of me there. That's the only 50 I got.
Was there a 58 in history before him?
I don't know. I wrote a story when the Steelers retired 32 for Franco Harris about all of the players that had worn 32 before Franco Harris, and it was fascinating just about like these guys from the 30s where like this one guy was an All-American in college and he got a job at the Butler Steel Mill. So like he was like, yeah, sure, I'll play with the Steelers. But then like he didn't want to play road games, so he only played 6 games or something like that. Like it's always fun to hear those stories.
Unbelievable. So yeah, we're at 15,000 and Cam Canada +1 subscribers right now on the YouTube channel. So keep those coming. Also hit us.
You want to go different Pittsburgh?
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, I mean, if Lambert's literally the only one that I could think about throwing out there for Steelers, exactly on the nose. So, but keep those coming. Keep subscribing. Hit us in the comments with your thoughts on anything that we talked about today. A topic for a future episode, question for a future episode. We're gonna need those obviously as we keep working through the off season here. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, be sure to leave us a 5-star review. Subscribe over there. Haven't gotten a review in a while. I want to read some reviews from the Apple and Spotify. So keep those coming, please. And then you can find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH, for Alan Saunders and myself. Thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.